Hi there. This is the tarot for the month of March 2026. And I almost missed the deadline because I was so focused on writing and putting together new classes, as well as some that I haven't taught for a while that I was really excited about. So I want to apologize to all those people who signed up for Intuition 1 through 7, the big intuition classes that last a weekend. I postponed them because I just could not squeeze any more hours out of the day to write, and I needed to return to writing for a few months. So I need to get a few things done. And those intuition classes will start later in the year, probably sometime around July or August. So they're coming. And in the meantime, I was having really a good time putting together a new kind of class called Journey into Consciousness, which is much shorter, much cheaper for those who can't afford the time or the money for the whole weekend class. The Friday night Journey into Consciousness is once a month, starts on March 6th. So it's less technical and a lot more personal than the big intuition classes. So I'm just really excited about teaching a tarot class March 17th and 18th. And there's a Getting Well mini class just on detox coming up on March 8th. And then I have an organic gardening class, which is going to be, I'm not sure the exact date yet, either late April or mid-May. And that, if you want to learn how to grow food, that is the class to take. So let's talk about the tarot, okay? The world right now is in considerable uproar, and I wrote this and put it together before the trouble started last night or yesterday with Iran, but I'm going to go ahead with what I wrote because it's still pretty relevant. So there is considerable uproar in so many countries. China, Mexico, Canada, the UK, France, Germany, Israel, Iran, Syria, Jordan, Italy, Qatar, Venezuela, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Palestine. Many places are in chaos or they're right near chaos. And there are big pressures in the US that keep circling around the possible war with Iran. And now I think it's on. But the information in the Epstein files is another big thing that we are chewing about. The question of whether the people in Washington are putting America first or not, and the perennial uncertainty of our financial system, which I thought needed a check-in. So my questions came out of that soupy mess. And the cards, wow, they were quite blunt in their advice. So all of the cards this month were major arcana cards. So let's begin. So question number 1 was, what is the future of the U.S. government if it goes to war with Iran? Question number 2, what should people do regarding their desire for accountability from those who committed the crimes revealed in the Epstein files? Question number 3, what advice does the animal kingdom have for us regarding the relationship with Israel? And question number 4, what advice does the plant kingdom have for us regarding the financial system and its future? So the cards drawn were, first card was, Major Arcana, Judgment, number 20 in the Major Arcana. Yeah. Question number 2, or card it actually was 2 cards. I accidentally drew 2 cards, and so I honored both of them. They were the Tower card and the High Priestess. What a combination. Oh my. Card number 3, drawn from the Animal Medicine deck, was the Wild Boar. We've seen this before, OMG. And then the from the Plant Kingdom, from the Herbal Astrology deck, we got Angel's Trumpet. Wow. I think this is number 46 in the deck. So let's look at these a little more deeply. Question number 1 was, what is the future of the U.S. government if it goes to war against Iran? And the card drawn was, like I said, a major arcana card indicating that this is a major turning point for the U.S. It was the Judgment card, as you can see. And this card carries a strong message saying this is not a good idea, and it could result in strong forces being used against us. But if we clear the shackles of the past and its old thinking, it hints that hope is possible. So when you look at the card, you see some very gray people standing naked in their coffins with their arms upraised toward the heavens. An angel with red wings and flaming hair can be seen in the sky blowing a trumpet. A flag with a big red cross is hanging from the trumpet, and the coffins are all floating on water. And there's some big mountains in the background that I didn't say anything about this time, but they symbolize being frozen in time. So the gray people, that's not the color of living, healthy people. These people are all gray, and they have not been engaged in life in a way that brings joy, clarity, living color, excitement, and energy to themselves. They already have one foot in the grave and yet do nothing beyond calling for help from heaven instead of realizing that the help they seek is within them. At the same time, the message being blasted at them by the trumpet, the angel with a trumpet, is that yes, there are some strong forces arrayed against you in the world, but you are to recognize your own strength and use what you have to push back against those strong forces. It says that fear is useless, and so is blame. Arguing about who's responsible for the problem is not going to resolve anything. Instead, the task is to clear away fear until the dungeons of the past have been cleaned out and a new future has a firm foundation. The coffins floating on the water indicate that any future we are dreaming of does not have a firm foundation. And without this, there will only be weary repetition of the same old mistakes, attitudes, and aggressions that bring war again and again. However, if the people, that's us, if the people can draw the line and be willing to face the consequences, rebirth is possible. The Judgment card symbolizes the possibility of a return to paradise, which is seen as a place where new decisions are made, forgiveness is extended, and daily routines are what we would like them to be. The open coffins, those represent two things. One is that serious issues have not been resolved. And since the question is about the future of our government in a war with Iran, this tells us that war is likely, unless and until these issues are resolved. The coffins also warn that such a war could well be the end of our government. And since Donald Trump is the major symbol of that government, it could well be the end of Trump and his insistence that he can make America great again. If the war with Iran begins, the advice from this card is, quote, "Let the dead bury the dead. Open yourself to the dawn of what is to come." In other words, the Trump administration and our current form of government may make decisions in which they bury themselves. Rather than trying to fix it or them, we are advised to move on. The trumpet symbolizes waking the sleeping energies and bringing people back to life. The people in this case are those who are not paying attention to the situation and who continue to think that all decisions and actions come out of Washington, D.C.'s big black box, a place full of mysterious reasons or high and mighty forces that are beyond the understanding of the people or their right to question. This is a dangerous approach to life. And that large red cross on the flag hanging on the trumpet indicates that we are at the crossroads. We must make a choice. We must make our decisions clearly and use our own power to make those decisions known. The angel's wings are red, and there are flames in his hair. Red represents passion, blood, anger, and also a serious need for healing. The flames in his hair tell us, wow, there's no more time to waste. No more time for indecision. The house is on fire, so to speak, and if action is not taken, it will burn down. Since we are asking about our government, that is a serious message. This card symbolizes our need to save ourselves, and it suggests selecting some guiding principles, developing a vision that suits our needs, and beginning the process of building something new. It warns that if we go to war with Iran, there would be serious outcomes, including being ostracized by the rest of the world, possibly losing that war and being subject to someone else running our country, and having to pay money in the form of reparations, having to pay with our lifestyles and our lives, and realizing too late that we let things go on too long before standing up, thus letting the chance to build a new world of our own choosing slip between our fingers. The nudity represents nowhere to hide, as well as being very vulnerable. With the fact that there is breakdown and chaos in so many places in our world, this card also brings the message that the end of the old system is very near. A war with Iran would likely result in finishing off the old world, thus forcing us to build a new world. This would require forgiving without forgetting or without ignoring what was learned in the process of the destruction. It says we will have to mobilize all our energies and everything we've got to rise to the task of rebuilding and rebirth. From this angle, the judgment card says that a war with Iran could be the mechanism of deliverance from the old world that is no longer working and is something that forces us to take responsibility for our lives. However, that can only happen if we maintain control of our land, ourselves, and our freedom to decide our own fate. So keywords for this card are farewell. Reconciliation is needed. Shameful decisions. Crude. End-of-life regrets. Strong forces. Consequences. Making new decisions. Drawing the line. Final decisions. Naked truth. Sleeping energies. Paradise, either won or lost, and crossroads. So question number 2 was, what should people do regarding their desire for accountability from those who committed the crimes revealed in the Epstein files? And when drawing a card for this question, I accidentally drew 2 cards, and they were also both major arcana cards. The Tower, number 16 in the major arcana, and the High Priestess, number 2. Wow. These are two extremely powerful cards, and they bring powerful, blunt messages. On the Tower card, we see lightning striking a tall tower, knocking off a crown that capped the tower and setting the entire structure on fire. People can be seen falling from the tower to the rocks below. The sky and the entire background is black with dark gray clouds, and there are droplets of yellow fire falling everywhere. The Tower card is the symbol of human megalomania and destruction. Towers themselves have long been like a symbol of protection. They symbolize high aspirations, power, and security away from the madding crowd. However, when corrupted, towers indicate arrogance, isolation, a private life that is absolutely unconcerned about others, and confinement. They also represent being trapped in an existence between heaven and hell with no way to escape. You know, you're up in the sky, you're not on the ground, you're in between. And that's a rather perfect description of life for those caught in the snares of Epstein and his accomplices, as well as his victims. The crown sitting on top of the tower represents a privileged life of money, power, and control over others. But the lightning striking the tower tells us that something has suddenly illuminated the methods and habits of those in the tower, blowing away their crown cover and exposing their evil deeds. So our question is, what to do or how to handle the desire for accountability in this situation. And the people falling from the tower indicate that those involved must be exposed and taken down from their places of power, money, and control. And that is probably the least we could expect for accountability. They no longer are in positions to do that kind of stuff. The tower also represents sexual energy, and the fire represents passion, which tells us that it's likely that sexual acts and passions and perversions were part of what's being revolved in the Epstein files. And of course, this is what we're seeing as the files are released. So the lightning striking that tower forms a jagged line shaped like a W. And this symbolizes both we, W-E, and weal, W-E-A-L. Weal is the well-being of a community. So the lightning represents a storm in the community and the infusion of a great deal of energy into an atmosphere in that community. This tells us a storm is descending on those involved in the Epstein files. A storm symbolizes anger and an awakening of both consciousness and active change. The anger is usually a reaction to deception and hidden or disguised aggression. And the long-term results of this storm will likely be much greater awareness, protection for the young and the vulnerable, and a better sense of weal, W-E-A-L, in the community. So the Tower card tells us that something negative is coming to an end. That's really good. But our question is about how to handle what we know and how to achieve accountability. And this is where the High Priestess comes in. The message of this card is that every human has value. So what is the value of a rapist or child molester? It is to make a population of people highly aware of the energies in their surroundings. It is to highlight the ignorance and superstition around the entire subject of sex. It is to be much more conscious about how to raise children so as to end up with strong, wise, powerful, and ethical individuals who will hold the defense and protection of their entire community in their minds with every decision and every action taken. It is to transform the entire population to a more aware group that is mature and willing to take responsibility for themselves and the results they produce. So the high priestess wears a flowing blue robe symbolizing clarity, the ocean of feelings we are immersed in, the ebb and flow of life, and the need to maintain a lucid awareness at all times. She wears a crown made of the moon, and her feet are the horns of Taurus the bull. This represents not only seeing what was hidden in the shadows, because moonlight creates a lot of shadows, but it warns that there may be a particularly strong reaction from the mothers of the world. The high priestess wears a cross on her breast that, just like the judgment card has a big red cross, that's at crossroads for the greater population seeking accountability. However, the crossroads acts as a call to every individual to take steps to guarantee the safety and security of everyone. On the curtain, behind the high priestess, there are pomegranates, and that emphasizes the sexual nature of the situation at hand. And the scroll in her hand has the word tarot on it, and that symbolizes the turning of the wheel in which the matriarchal energies rise. The high priestess calls for each person to be fully immersed in the knowledge of what has happened. And she encourages, develop your own opinion. And then take steps that you think are appropriate while fully intending the results you set in motion. That means be conscious, be aware of what results you want. A great part of the reward for doing so is the chance to discover more of yourself and who you really are, as well as what you can accomplish in life when you put your mind to it. Like the judgment card above, the high priestess brings the same message to us that the judgment card did. It's let the dead bury the dead, which says that when people have committed grievous crimes, they have essentially buried themselves by those actions. There's no way out for them. They will suffer the consequences, and their fate is of their own making. But the high priestess warns, don't get caught in uncontrolled or poorly thought out vengeance, or you're going to go down with them. There are civilized ways of dealing with these crimes that prevent the spread of negative karma. What is to be learned? Many things. Those who practice bad parenting and those who do not know how to raise children well can be ignored under the guise or using the excuse of, well, we can't interfere with their rights or their privacy. But you will pay to imprison, feed, and clothe those people for the rest of their lives if they become dangerous criminal adults. The Tower card tells us that something ugly has been revealed. And the high priestess tells us that before demanding accountability from the perpetrators, we should examine our own role in these crimes. And only when this has been done and new habits and rules have been set in place, should there be any decisions or actions that exact accountability or punishment. What was our role in all that? It was ignoring what was going on. So, failing to learn and adjust life to prevent further occurrences is a guarantee that nothing will change. And all that same stuff is just going to go underground. So, key words for the Tower card are misery, catastrophe, imprisonment, disgrace, deception, ruin, adversity, Lord of death, awakening and understanding, structures crashing, liberation from traps of Satan, pride, and megalomania. And the keywords for the High Priestess are secrets, silence, mystery, passion, conceit, sexuality, schemes, maternal intuitions, change and fluctuation, revelation, oppression of minorities, personal opinion, powerful women, and high-ranking officials. Question number 3 was, what advice does the animal kingdom have for us regarding the relationship with Israel? So this question brought a card that we saw back in November of 2025 in response to a question about handling politicians involved in corruption. And now here it is again, the wild boar, number 48 in the animal medicine deck. The fact that we are asking about our relationship with Israel and we get the wild boar again tells us that there are likely hidden or unadmitted connections between Israel and corrupt politicians. The wild boar is a card that symbolizes refusing to give up and fighting to the death. This card urges us to confront lies, liars, and those who would deceive us. While this could mean directly confronting Israel, the card advises some deep changes in core consciousness before attempting any kind of confrontation. So perhaps you remember this story from last November. The story is of a young warrior who lied about something and got caught. He put his community in danger. He then had a choice, either banishment from the tribe or facing a wild boar with only a knife. It was not an easy choice. Banishment meant certain death because no one can survive alone. And a wild boar was a serious beast to confront. However, the night before the fight was to take place, he had a dream in which he met a wild boar who told him that if he could confront the self-important, lying self, he would be able to survive their combat. The young warrior decided to commit to the truth forever. And when he met the wild boar the next day, he was able to slay it. What's the moral of this story? It's that lying is not acceptable and will not be overlooked because it is a danger to the entire community of humans. When we pretend we don't see or don't know, we are completely unprepared for what life brings us. When we pretend, oh, we didn't know, we think it allows us to escape responsibility. When we pretend we didn't know someone was lying, we are admitting a failure of consciousness based on laziness, greed, fear, pride, or the willingness to just play victim. The question becomes, what were you paying attention to that you didn't want to bother paying full attention to what you were being told and sensing the validity of those words? What kind of selfishness was driving your unwillingness to go beyond the surface of those words? What were you hoping would happen without involving you, when the truth is that you are part of everything going on in the entire universe? When we pretend that we don't know someone is lying, we are lying to ourselves. We do know. And this knowing is what the wild boar is urging regarding our relationship with Israel. Confronting something does not necessarily mean going to war, although this is often the path taken because of fears and illusions instead of sitting down to problem solve. War is often the weak man's solution to things. But wild boar medicine teaches that we must confront human weakness and change those weaknesses into strengths. It calls for the willingness to confront fears, the challenges at hand, and the uncomfortable circumstances we find ourselves in. It urges standing tall, standing for something good, and refusing to run from the situations that life presents. Wild boar demands that we pay attention, and it warns that we are soon going to be asked to confront fear and personal weaknesses in order to overcome a serious challenge. Is that challenge related to the possibility of going to war with Iran? Is that challenge the fact that both the U.S. and Israel are tools of the Rothschild banking system located in that square mile of real estate known as the City of London? Is it related to the fact that nobody wants war except the bankers and the big corporations who like the money they make from loans to countries who need to buy weapons? Why do we avoid these truths? There are many reasons, but the most debilitating of them is the fear that we are not powerful enough to do anything about the situation. When wild boar appears in a reading, it brings a warning. And the warning says, quote, "Because you have been unwilling to confront some challenge, situation, or feeling, it is about to explode in your face." It tells us to quit avoiding the truth and quit pretending the lie is not there right in front of us, and to scratch up some courage. Doing so replenishes your spirit's energy. It encourages us by reminding us that we do not have to believe we are brave in order to confront our mistakes or denials. It is our relationship with Israel. It's ours. And we are not puppets on a string. All relationships do better with honesty, quiet standing, a willingness to listen, and clear boundaries that say yes and no with direct but gentle firmness. Keywords for the wild boar are ferociousness, honest confrontation, truth, traditions, intelligent approach, raw power, determined, warrior spirit, great strength, powerful, resilience, bravery, and protective. Question number 4. What advice does the plant kingdom have for us regarding the financial system and its future? So, as I mentioned, I like to check into the financial system 3 or 4 times a year just to see how things look, because things change so quickly in the world of money and finance. And the card pulled here was Angel's Trumpet, number 46 in the Herbal Astrology Oracle deck, and a card symbolizing death. I wasn't kidding when I said all the cards had major, blunt messages for us. We're in the crucible of change right now. So all the cards pulled this month have some pretty serious and powerful messages. And Angel's Trumpet is no exception. Angel's Trumpet is a very poisonous plant, and it's often mixed with ayahuasca in shamanic ceremonies. As I've pointed out many times, poisonous herbs and plants can often be used in little tiny amounts in herbal formulas to kickstart a reaction when quick power and healing is needed. But when too much is used, these poisons can be deadly. They are deadly. The secret is in knowing how much to use, and this may be a key part of our answer to the question about the future of our financial system. It may be that a financial system is necessary, but when it is too big, when it becomes central and overshadows everything, when law makes decisions on the basis of money, when education is decided on the basis of money, when presidents and governors are chosen on the basis of money, and technology is being implemented on the basis of money, then the financial system becomes deadly. And this card is a serious reminder of the risk of death in that system. Angel's Trumpet causes severe hallucinations and delirium when used without guidance and wise experience. Is this telling us that our financial system is causing some kind of hallucinations in people? Would this be because they believe that money will save them, that money makes them special, that money can buy health or excuses for shortcomings, that money guarantees happiness, that money can buy love? These are common hallucinations in our society. We are asking about the future of the financial system, and this plant signals a time of catharsis or death, and usually both. It says a time of deep emotional breakdown is near. If there's trouble in the financial system and people cannot get what they need to survive, there could be many breakdowns, both personal and societal. If this occurs, the people may have to revert to their original source of security. What's that? That's Mother Earth. Angel's Trumpet warns of getting lost in despair, depression, and darkness. But one of the effects of this plant is to introduce you to a very broad spectrum of discernment. Another is to make you aware of where the points of light can be found, making it easier to make your way to those lights and figure out what you need to do. There's an old saying that we've all heard: when one door closes, another door opens. This is not just true in terms of ideas. It is also true literally. When one door closes, you may stand and cry and pound at the door for a short time, but when it doesn't open, you give it up, you sit down, you cry a little more, and then you start to wonder, what should I do? And as soon as you start wondering, which is a form of asking questions, your consciousness begins opening you to possibilities. And you can begin to interact with that consciousness in the same way you interact with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. You just keep adding, revising, experimenting, and creating what you need. This not only results in doors opening, it results in the opening of your consciousness to the true nature of reality and what you're capable of. Your ability to imagine and to ask are the keys to the kingdom. Angel's Trumpet backs this up with its advice, which says, deeply pause, let go of control, Gather as many broken pieces of the self as possible and examine them for remnants of joy, your dreams, and what you would do if you didn't have to do what you were doing before the door closed. Think about the possibilities. Ask the universe for what you need, and then go about your business doing what your physical self requires while you let the universe work in the background. Angel's trumpet not only signals catharsis, it signals literal or metaphysical death of the old you, old habits, and old routines and patterns. It tells you to allow yourself to feel the shattering for a time, but that reconstruction is already underway as you go about your day and allow yourself to reflect on what you've been through and what you would do differently to prevent being shattered in the future. Keywords for Angel's Trumpet are breakdown, cathartic transformation, elimination, rising from the ashes, shedding the old, crisis, illusion, shattered reality, and ignoring the possibilities. So that's it for this tarot reading. So let's do a quick summary of what we've covered. The questions asked were, number one, what's the future of the U.S. government if it goes to war against Iran? And the judgment card was drawn here. Not a very positive or hopeful answer to our question. It says that people have been disengaged for so long that it may be too late. And the government already has one foot in the grave, so to speak. It points out that we do not have a future with a firm foundation. And if we don't correct the situation, there will be weary repetition of the same mistakes, attitudes, and aggressions. It warns that Donald Trump is the major symbol of government, and a war with Iran could be the end of Trump and his plan to make America great again. The judgment card says it's time to wake up. The house is on fire. If action is not taken, it will burn down. It says there's no place to hide, and we may be forced to build a new world, but we will only be able to do so if we maintain control of our land, ourselves, and our freedom to decide our own fate. Question number 2, what should people do regarding their desire for accountability from those who committed the crimes revealed in the Epstein files? And I inadvertently pulled 2 cards here, the Tower card and the High Priestess, both very powerful and very blunt. The Tower symbolizes human megalomania and destruction. It represents a life of privilege, money, power, sexual energy, and control over others. The lightning tells us that a storm is raging, and those involved in the Epstein activities have already begun to be exposed. Part of the accountability should be seen as their loss of position, money, and power, and it tells us this will result eventually in a better, safer, and more protective community of people who are less naive and more mature. As for accountability, the High Priestess asks us to refrain from seeking accountability if we have not examined our role in the situation and what can be learned from all of this. There's a great deal to be learned if we will ask the right questions and think about what a rapist teaches. How did the rapist come to be so cruel and callous? What are we doing or not doing that we have children who become this kind of adult? And how we have ended up with an entire hidden structure of criminals acting like megalomaniacs and operating right in front of us for years. Question number 3, what advice does the animal kingdom have for us regarding the relationship with Israel? And the wild boar came up in answer to this. And its message is confrontation, not only of Israel, but of the self. Lots of self-examination being suggested by the cards this month. Wow. Like the high priestess above, the wild boar wants us to realize our part in the dysfunction of this relationship. It wants us to see how we pretend we are more important or more powerful than others, how we reserve rights and permissions for ourselves that we refuse to grant to others, and the deceit with which we operate in the relationship. It demands that we pay attention because we are soon going to be asked to confront a challenge that will blow up in our face. It advises honesty, quiet standing, willingness to listen, and clear boundaries maintained with direct but gentle firmness. And question number 4, what advice does the plant kingdom have for us regarding the financial system and its future? And our final question was supposed to be a quick check-in of our financial system, but the angel's trumpet card was a bit of a shock. It's a card of death by poisoning, either literally or metaphysically. It represents being lost in hallucinations without the benefit of wisdom. It represents delirium and the fever of behaving in ways that have lost all trace of common sense and sustainability, leaving us in danger of despair, depression, and darkness. Angel's trumpet advises that we come to a nearly complete stop. Let go. Gather the pieces of the self as best we can, and then asks us to study those pieces in order to resurrect the joy and excitement of life and reconstitute our dreams or make new ones. This is a card of catharsis caused by the shattering of security, forcing you to let go of old habits, naive expectations, and old patterns. It says that reconstruction will come, and it would be wise to think about what you would do differently to prevent being poisoned or shattered in the future. So that's it for the March Tarot. Thank you so much for listening. Take care of yourself and have a really great month. Enjoy the spring. Take care.